The Betrayed.
Welcome back to The Betrayed. I'm Gina Beck.
This is Drew Williams.
Thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. We appreciate y'all, especially the reviews on Apple Podcasts. It really means a lot.
Yeah, and like always, thank you again for the continued support, the continued engagement, and the hashtag Banana Cats. And big shout out to the iHeartRadio listeners, because we never shout you guys out, and you're one of our number one downloaders. So thank you guys too.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. How are you, Drew?
I'm good, G. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Ready to jump into this podcast.
Yeah, this is I'm hoping more comes out, because the only articles I could find, nothing against New Zealand. It's just always nice to have a perspective, because sometimes details aren't allowed to be leaked in a certain country, but other countries are allowed to say other things. So this came out of New Zealand, and it's a weird situation. I'm going to read this short article, and then we're going to do what we normally do, talk about it. A judge declares that can with adults. A New Zealand judge has told a jury that they can do that with adults. A 45-year-old charged with using two girls for years. He was charged with the following, and this is probably going to be bleeped: unlawful connection, 7 other violations, another 2 violations, and 6 of indecent acts. But the way she came on to me was like a mature woman, close quote. The defense also pushed hard with a little-known oddity of the law, that while the age of consent is 16 years in New Zealand, can still be used as a legal defense by those charged with hard-R-ing children. At the end of the case, as it drew near, Judge Earwalker addressed the issue of consent with a child under 16. Quote, legally, a person under 16 cannot give consent for charges of indecent acts. Therefore, as a jury, all you need to decide is if the incident acts that took place are indecent. Went further on to say, but as for the deed, a person under 16 can give consent, the judge said. On Monday, Judge Earwalker closed the trial, urging the jury to stay utterly dispassionate when judging whether the Crown prosecution has proved its case or not. Quote, it is not enough for the Crown to persuade you that he is most likely guilty. It needs to be beyond a reasonable doubt, close quote. Help, an organization, was shocked by this loophole, stating that this type of behavior between children and adults is always the responsibility of the adult. The children have no blame for what is done to them. And that some defense lawyers are insinuating that children as young as 6 years old have the consent to this type of abuse by a grandparent is disgusting. Wow, that's crazy. The organization went on to say the following: we urgently need to amend consent law and to clarify that children cannot be considered to have consent to sexual activity with adults. In the end, the jury decided that the evidence supported the victims and found the weirdo guilty of all charges. Sentencing will be advised later this month, and we will give updates when we find out more about this one. This episode, I really don't know if we can even bleep everything out. This might not be monetized, so it might get a little bit shadow banned. But this is weird. This is a first world country. This is New Zealand. This is where Lord of the Rings was filmed. This is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And it seems like they're about to legalize nightmares.
Hopefully not. They better not. I guess it's a situation. I mean, these people are outraged. There's not like people aren't trying. There's advocates for victims who are demanding the laws to be changed, and they're not giving up. So it's not like it's not from lack of trying. It's just the people who are in charge of this, like, who look at the person who's passing this. Look at the judge. Like, look at these people who are the ones that are going to say that this is okay. Those are the ones that need to be looked at. Like, how does that even cross your mind? That should be a hard no as soon as it hits your desk. Like, there's even a 17-year-old who says she was abused with the hard R when she was younger, and she went to police this year but decided not to proceed when she found out the odds were stacked against her. So there's victims who get the courage, and then when they start to go through the process, they realize like all these people are okay with kids getting abused. So what's the point? And that they can't get justice. There are people who are saying the justice system is against kids, against minors. Like, it's not protecting them. It's just it's common sense, I feel like, right? Isn't it common sense that this isn't okay? How are they just letting this be okay?
I mean, I used to think it was, but when you look at just all the weird things that people are okay with exposing their children to nowadays that are so quote unquote normal good parents, I don't know. I don't know if it is common sense anymore, which
Well,
is
ask
really,
anyone that's been abused, right? Or ask even a child, ask any child to an adult who has been abused if they're the ones who think this should be okay. They'll all tell you no. And then you ask the predators, right? And they will all say, yeah, because they want it. Because they, what did that guy say? Pursued me. She came on to me. I had to refuse her at first. Like, what? Obviously, her story is way different than his. And it's like, these are the people that are being listened to. The ones that say she wanted it. And it's like the ones with the actual traumatic stories that things really did happen to them and they're traumatized by it. Let's just make that okay for everyone. Let's just let everybody go through that. You know? It's just crazy.
we live in a very weird time when it comes to this stuff. I mean,
I mean, and people are getting more numb to things like this because it's I'll deal with it when it happens to me type thing, or it would never happen to me type thing. When you don't know that, and then when it finally does, you know, I don't know. There's just a lot. Like, imagine the judge who's passing this or saying it's okay, and his granddaughter, niece, nephew, God forbid, gets kidnapped and tortured and hard, and
I
he's the
think
one that made that plausible.
I just look at like people's willingness now lately. Like I've personally dealt with somebody who thinks this entire subject and community is, some far right extremist thing. And I don't get why it has to turn into this political debate because, I mean, when Hunted Confronted was going, we literally encountered every type of walk of life of person. Like, it's not,
Oh yeah,
and
and we never brought politics into anything ever. It's because it's not about that.
it's not. And
It's about human beings
we,
who
oh, I'm sorry.
I was just saying it's about human beings who are disgusting and just like prey on children. That was the whole point of it.
Well, that's what I think is just so odd. Is you would think it would be something that would be more. It's a weird thing to like use the term unite, but you think more people would be united behind being against this stuff and talking about it, and it almost becomes more of a divisive talking point at this point right now. It's very weird. We're in a very strange time.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know why. Because it's just so easy for, I think, us to talk about it we just don't understand why it's not. The only way I will understand why it's not is because if you went through it. Like, that's the only way I understand it. If you haven't been through it and you're uncomfortable with having these conversations, start getting comfortable. You know, because these are conversations that need to be had, period. Because every single family, every single person in this world knows a child.
Well, to bring like a positive note to it, like on the other end of the spectrum, there is a bigger push again because it goes in waves. We've always talked about this with the gays against the G word because we're not allowed to say that word. That word's more. If you don't know, you need to pay attention to the internet more. But they're a coalition that's against just the weird over weirdo-ness that they're trying to hide behind their community to push weirdo agendas. And that Instagram page and Twitter page, I think they're up over 100,000 followers. They've brought a lot of attention. They ended up getting talked about on Tucker Carlson, Timcast IRL. I believe Joe Rogan talked about them at one point. It is coming back, but I feel like at the same time people are just as passionate on either side again. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. You know, we can sit here and talk about this all day, you know, and no matter what, you know, we always circle back to the same thing. And it's just we need more punishment, you know, more punishment for these weirdos. I think that's all that we'll talk about on this particular topic. If anything else comes up, which obviously it's going to, because they got to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
So when they make a decision, we'll bring this back up to you guys and let you know what the decision is and what our opinions on the decision is. Hopefully, hopefully they don't approve this. That's all I gotta say. So until next time, Banana Cats, thank you for listening, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you guys again. Much love. Peace.